All right, students, in this video, we're going to be talking about the Unit 1B test review. All right, so yes, I know I'm muted for some things. Okay, so let's go and get started. Our first question is, find the QB rating for Eli Manning's rookie year. All right, so what we have is all the attempts, completions, um, touchdowns, all that good stuff. All right, so now we're going to need the formula. All right, so I went ahead and put the formula down here. All right, so in this formula, we are in this particular formula, we've got to do a couple of things. First off, what we have to do is we've got to figure out what is the percentage dealing with completions, percentage of touchdowns, percentage of interceptions, as well as the yards. And I went ahead and broke it down into three pieces. You should know this setup by now. All right. So to find the percent of completions, now, I went ahead and gave you the answer just so you can already have it with you. But to figure out the percent of completions, you are going to divide the completions, which is 95, and divide that by the attempts, which is 197. All right, now remember, guys, you are going to get a decimal. It's going to be 0.482, but you got to move the decimal two places over because this is the one formula that you actually have to move the decimal back to a percentage as opposed to keep it as a decimal. So it's kind of weird like that. But this is the only formula that you're going to use in the entire AMDM year. All right. So touchdowns, we're going to take touchdowns. We're going to divide that by the average, the attempts. I'm sorry, and you're going to get 0.03, but 0.030. But remember, you move the decimal two places back to the left. The interceptions. All right. So we've had 9 interceptions. All right, so we had 9 interceptions divided by 197, and that's going to give us 0.046, but again, move the decimal two places over. And then lastly, the yards. This is where a lot of students screw up, and that is because they've been moving the decimal for the first three things, and they forget that the yards is not a percentage, okay? So 1043, divide this by the amount of attempts, and you do the math, you get 5.3. Now, remember, I'm going to put a little side note, and it says, do not move decimal. All right. So you only move the decimal for the top three because of the fact that you're dealing with percentages. Notice that the average yard is not a percentage. All right. Now, once you get all this information, all you're doing is just plugging the information into the appropriate spots. So 42.6 will go here, 3.0 will go there, 4.6 will go there, and lastly 5.3 will go there. All right. So in your graphing calculator or in your scientific calculator, when you type all this information in, it's going to be really, really easy. All right. So we're going to start off with 25 because that's what the formula starts off with. 10 times 48.2, close parenthesis. Notice all I'm doing is just literally typing in the formula as it is written. Oops, sorry, that's a minus 50, 4.6. There it is. Okay, I was going crazy there. Plus 50, parenthesis, 5.3. All right. And then once I do all that, I am going to divide by 12. Remember that 12 is just there. So when you are doing this problem, remember that remember not to put the whole thing in the problem, meaning the whole thing in the calculator. All right, so go ahead and do the numerator first. All right, so do the numerator first. So do everything on the top. All right, so do everything on the top as is written first, get a number, then divide by 12. All right, so put everything in the top, press enter, then divide by 12. All right, and your answer ends up being 55.4. All right, next question. All right, so what we have here is what is this? The quarterback ranking that we're just going to be working backwards. All right, so when we work it backwards, we're solving for x, so using algebra. The biggest challenge is making sure that you get rid of this denominator first. So I'm going to multiply the denominator by what it's equal to. So that's 12 times 75.9. This is basic math here, all right? So I'm going to do two things. I'm going to multiply 12 times 75, and I'm also going to go ahead and simplify all these things here by multiplying. All right, so I'm going to do two things at once. So when you start seeing my work, you'll be like, where'd all these numbers come from? Well, because I multiply by 12, and then I multiply like the 10 times 57.8. All right, so that's where all this information is coming from. So the next step would be 25 plus 578 plus, let's see, 40 times 4.3 is 172 minus 50 times 3.1 is 155 hold on, plus 50 times x is 50x. And then when I multiplied 12 times 79.5, I got 210 or 910.8. I'm then going to combine like terms, like I would in my regular ninth grade math class, and it ends up with 620 plus 50x is equal to 910.8. All right. In fact, I always like putting my equal signs right in line. All right. All right. So now I'm solving for, I got to solve for x, but I got to get rid of that 620. So I'm going to divide. I'm sorry. Wow. Divide. Subtract. I'm going to subtract 620 from 910. So that would be 50x is equal to 290.8. And then from there, I'm dividing by 50 to get 5.8 yards. So the average is 5.8 yards. All right, let's find the check digit UPC. Now, we've been doing this for so long, this should be relatively easy. So I'm starting with my first digit. There, I don't know why I said second digit. I wasn't supposed to, but I did. All right, so I'm going to take all those numbers, and I'm going to, let's move that right, put that right there. All right, so step one, remember, step one is to take all those numbers, and then you are going to multiply by 3. All right, so step one, all right, so step one, I added all those numbers up, and I multiplied by 3, and I got 57. Remember, step two is all the numbers that you skipped, you just add them up, which gives you 22. Which means step three, you're adding the first two steps up, and you get 79. All right. Now, I'm going to write a little note here because I think this is going to help you out because some folks are still getting confused. When the problem has x, add up. All right, we'll just say add up. I'm just going to say that. When problem does not have x, do or uh, you can't add up. All right, getting real specific here. All right, now this problem has an x, so we're just adding up. Okay, so we're at 79, and so 79, the next number after 79 would be an 80. So at this point in time, you should know what all this means, and that is that check digit, the only reason for the check digit to be there is to make the total end in 0. So here's the main takeaways, and that is when the problem has an x, you add up. When the problem does not have an x, you don't add up. Now, I think we're going to get to a problem where it doesn't have x, but we'll get there in a second. Well, right now. Okay. All right. We're doing this right now. Okay. So here we go. We have, let's see, a UPC, and we're going to go ahead and do the same old thing here, there, there, there. All right. So I add all those numbers up, and then I times it by 3. I got 57. Then you take all the numbers that you skipped, like we did in that last problem. You got 14. So 57 plus 14 gives me 79. Or, well, sorry, 71. All right. Now, hopefully you know by now that this does not make the UPC valid. So we need to do this again. Now, the easiest thing to do, all right, I've been saying this several times, the easiest thing to do is to just take the 0 and make it into an x and do it all over again. All right, so if you just take the 0, make this an x, and do all the steps again. And what I mean by that, do all the steps again like you would in the last problem that we did, and that was, my computer's slowing up a little bit. All right, so just doing this. All right, this is the easiest thing to do. I know in class I kind of did some things where I where I kind of did a shortcut. I'm not going to do a shortcut. So to do it all over again, step one would be 57, step two would be 14, and then step three would be 71. Now, this is where some folks are going to screw up. Like, wait a minute, we're getting the same numbers. The reason why you're getting the same numbers, and this is a weird one, this is just one of those weird ones because the check digit was 0 originally. So that's going to make things a little weird. All right. So, but you're still going after the whole thing of making it an X, and it just so happened to work out this way. All right. So it does not work all the time. But just because the check digit is 0 made the problem a little funky. So we're going to add up to 80. And then, of course, that is supposed to be 80, Mike. Okay, 80. So we're just going to add 9. There we go. All right, the next question deals with Dale Murphy's season stats. All right, so here we have Dale Murphy. Here's his season stats. So what we have to do is we have to use the what we have to do is use the slugging average formula, which is this guy right here. Okay, now we've done this several times before. Remember, singles get multiplied by 1, doubles times 2, triples times 3, home runs by 4. So to save a little bit of time, I'm just going to go ahead and put doubles times 1, I'm sorry, singles times 1, doubles times 2, triples times 3, and lastly, home runs by 4. All right, that just kind of makes life a little easier when you go ahead and do that. Save yourself a little bit of step, a little bit of space and time. All right, so when we start doing this, it's going to be 80 times 1, which is 80, plus 14 times 2 is 28, plus 3 times 3 is 9, plus 23 times 4, I want to say 92. All right. Yeah, I think I'm right on that. And then I'm going to divide all this. So big line divide. Divide this by 530. And there you go. 393. All right. Now, the total number of bases, that's a skip. We haven't gone over that, and we're just not going to. We're not going to go over it for this because of digital learning. All right. Next question. All right, now we got to figure out how many home runs did Mike Piazza hit. So we're still in um, the whole arena of using the slugging average formula. All right, so again, slugging average formula, there it is. All right, so again, singles times 1, doubles times 2, triples times 3. That was supposed to be a 2, but there it is. And that was supposed to be a 3. All right, for some reason, my computer's doing some weird stuff. All right, so we're going to do the same exact thing here. All right, so I don't really have a lot of room to write, but I'm just going to do it. So I might have to get creative with my writing. All right, so 187 plus, let's see, 187 plus 24 times 2 is 48, plus 3 times 2 is 6. Now, this is where some folks screw up, and that is 4 times x is 4x. Okay? So 4 times 4x. Let's see if I can just put it over here, maybe. All right, I think that's the best I can do. All right, so we're going to put it over the amount of at-bats, which the amount of at-bats ends up being 547. 547. All right, and then we're going to set it equal to the slugging average, which is 0.564. All right. Now, what we have here is an algebra problem that we are dealing with, that we have a denominator. All right. So we've dealt with this before. All right. And of course, my computer stops working, so I'm going to pause the video until it gets going. All right. So it started working again. So what we have here is just basically a long problem that has a denominator. Now, this goes back to that, what was that question that quarterback ranking question that had a denominator. All right, so first thing we got to do is get that denominator out of there. So I'm going to multiply 547 times 564. I'm going to multiply these two together, and also I'm going to go ahead and combine like terms. So I'm going to go ahead and do 2 steps at once. All right, so when I do these 2 steps at once, let's see. it's going to end up being, and I'm going to have to write down here, unfortunately. So let's see, 187 plus 48 plus 6. So that gives me 241 plus 4x is equal to, let's see, 0.564 times 547. Oh, we got a decimal here. All right. So we're just going to keep the decimal, 308.5. All right. I try my best to edit out the decimals. I can't be perfect all the time. So once I get to this point, I'm going to then subtract the 241 from the 308.5. All right. So 4x is equal to 308.5 minus 241, and I end up with 67.5. And then I divide, let's see if I can get that decimal, there it is. And then when I divide by 4, I'm going to get 17. In fact, I'll actually get, let's see, divide that by 4. I'll get 16.9 basically, which rounds to 17. So some of these questions, again, can't get them all right in the sense of not having decimals. All right. All right. Credit card procedure. All right. So the credit card procedure, very similar to the UPC, which means starting with the first number there, skipping every other one, like so. This is nothing new. We've done this forever. And remember, once you add everything up, you multiply by 2. All right. So remember, you're going to multiply by 2. So let me just put a little note there just so you know. We are going to take it and times it by 2. All right. Now remember, for step 2, this is the infamous 5 through 9 range. All right. So using all the numbers that we highlighted, we ask ourselves, okay, which one is in the 5 to 9 range? All right. Now because I'm using my tools here as opposed to actually my, like my whiteboard or whatever, smart board, I'm just going to cross it out. Okay, this first one is not in the 4 to 9 or 5 to 9. That's not in the 5 to 9. That one is. This one is not. This one is not. That one is, that one is not, that one is. So the ones that still are in the 5 to 9 range are 5, 9, and 6, which is 3. Now remember, the last step is all the numbers. All the numbers that we haven't messed with, we're going to add them up, okay? So again, just because I can, we're going to do this one. We're going to do this one. We're going to do this one. Haven't messed with it yet. We're going to do this one. Add this one, add this one, add that one, and add that one. All right? So when we do all that, and then we end up with 37. All right? Which means the last step is adding 56, 3, 37, and then when we do that, we got 96. Now remember, 96 is not a valid total because it has to end in 0. All right? So it is not a valid total. All right? Now, going back to the note that we just did up here, because the next question is, hey, what should the check digit be? And what some students are going to do, they're going to go, oh, 96. The check digit's 4 because we're just adding 4. No, guys, again, going back to our rule here, and that is, when the problem has an x, you add it up, okay? When the problem does not have an x, you can't add up, all right? So do not do that, okay? So in this particular problem here, do not say, oh, 96 plus 4. It won't work, all right? So what you have to do, remember folks, we've said this before, I'll say it again. You have to go, the easiest way to do this is to take the very last number of the credit card, do it again. I'm sorry, last credit card, put an X on it, and do all the problems again. Okay, do it all again. All right. So again, do it all again. So again, watch what I'm doing here. If I could, look, it was a 7, now it's an X. I'll do it one more time. It's a 7, now it's an X. So I'm going to do all the steps again. So that means all the steps that were right here, we're done. We're done with these. All right, we're done with all those. All right, so we're going to do steps 1, 2, 3, all again. Now, because of time, step 1 will be 56. Step 2 will be 3. Step 3 will be 30, which means the last step would be, let's see, that looks like it'll be 89. Then we add up. When we add up, we'll add up to 90, which means we'll just have to add 1 to it. All right, check digit is 1. All right, so find the check digit credit card. All right, we've already kind of done this, so pause for a second. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just do this real quick. All right, so the first step ends up being 34. You remember start. We've done this so many times, guys. I mean, y'all should know how to do this. 34. There was two numbers in the 5 to 7 or 5 to 9 range. Step three. I'm sorry. Step three actually ended up being 34 again. All right, that's weird. And then lastly, step four looks like 34, 34. That looks like it adds up to 70. Now, here's the thing. It already ends up it has a 70. But the check digit has to be a number that doesn't change that number. So it's already a 70. So what that means is the check digit has to be a 0, because if the check digit was anything other than a 0, then that 70 would become a number that does not end in a 0. Right? All right, so for this guy right here, all right, so if you remember, we are going to take we are going to take all the scores in each category and average them. So in this case, we're just dividing it by 2. And then we get 95, and then we multiply it by the category percentage to get the raw score. All right, so we're multiplying to get the raw score. All right, so now once you get all the raw scores, you simply just add them up, and there you go. So John's overall grade is an 85 in the class. All right. Now the next question, okay, so I kind of threw this question in here just to kind of make you guys think a little bit. All right. So what can this digit be in order for this entire thing to work out? In reality, it's basically the same thing as like asking you what the check digit is. All right. So it's basically like the same concept. All right. So again, with that being said, let's see. Let's go ahead and start. Starting with my first number, 8. Skipping every other one. Skipping every other one. Skipping every other one. Let's see. So step one, let's see, 805, that's 13, 14, 17. All right, so 17 times 3, I believe that's 51. Let me check. All right, I was right on the money on that one. That was 17. We're going to multiply by 3. That's step 1 is 51. Step 2 is 20. Remember, UPCs only have 2 steps. And then you have 71. But since we're dealing with an X, remember, going back to that same rule, when you're dealing with an X, you add up. All right, so that means when I add up to 80, I just have to take in the 9. Because remember, and I'll show it to you one more time, unless my computer freezes, which it looks like it is not. Okay, good. Remember, when the problem has an X, add up. When the problem does not have an X, you do not add up. All right? Okay. What's the next one? All right. Next one is we got to figure out what John needs to have in the class. Oh, I'm sorry, he wants to make a 90 in the class, and we got to figure out what his overall grade is. So now, the first part of this is relatively simple. Remember, take all these scores, average them to get the mean score, and then times it by 50% to get 40. So you should know how to get to this point here. Now, if you remember the relationship, all right. In fact, I'll do a two-step. All right. The first step is the grade he wants minus the raw scores equals a number, something number. All right. So that would be, I guess, step 1. And then for step 2, divide the difference by the final exam percentage as a decimal. All right. So the grade he wants, let's see, what grade does he want? In fact, I'm going to write it this way. So the grade he wants is a 90. All right, so let's see if I can do this. All right, the grade he wants is it's not letting me do it. Okay, you know what? Forget it. All right, the grade he wants is a 90. All right, so I'm just going to do this on top here. The grade he wants is a 90. I'm going to subtract all the raw scores, which is 40 minus 16.8. All right, so 90 minus, let's see, 90 minus 40 minus 16.8. I get 33.2. All right, that was my step 1. And then my step 2, I'm going to divide that. So divide by the final exam percentage as a decimal, which is 0.30. And when you do the math, you get 111. That's it. All right. Let's see. I think this might be our last question. Nope, we got a little more. All right, it says, John is in third grade. He wrote an essay for his class, determine the grade level. All right, so this is the fog index. So remember the fog index and the Flesch Kincaid is these guys. You're going to type them in exactly the way it is. All right, so the fog index. All right, the fog index starts with 0.4, and I'm going to type it just like I would use in my calculator. So the number of words is 90. I'm going to divide that by the number of sentences, which is 9. And then I'm going to plus 100 times the number of complex word, which is 1, divide that by the number of words. So I'm using the words again. All right, so I use it both times. And there you go. Now the Flesch Kincaid. All right, so the Flesch Kincaid, 0.39, parenthesis, the number of words, which is 90, divided by the number of sentences, 9. All right, and we're going to plus 11.8, parenthesis. Let's see, the number of syllables, which is, I believe that's 130, 130, divided by the number of words, which is 90. And then the thing that always gets missed is the minus 15, 59. All right. Now remember that these two things, they measure basically the same thing, but different formulas. You're going to get similar answers, not the exact same sometimes. But remember, as a self-check, remember, they should be the similar. Okay, they should be similar. So 4 and 5, that's pretty good. All right. All right, so at a particular sporting event, so remember this works off a family of 4. So 4 tickets, 4 Cokes, 2 beers, everyone's got to eat a hot dog, 1 car's got to be parked, 2 programs, and then 2 ball caps. So I'm going to take all this information, 4 times 925, and 4 times 150, 2 times 350. Add it all up, you get 98. So that means every single time a family walks into this sporting event, they're going to spend, what is that, $98. Now for the next question, same exact thing. You're going to bring down the 4424. And then it becomes an algebra problem. All right, so the algebra problem, and I'm just going to go ahead and start solving this as I'm 4 times 25 is 100, plus, hit the wrong button, plus 4 times 5 is 50. Uh-oh, the beers. We don't know, but we know we multiply by 2, so we get 2x. Plus 16, plus 20, plus, I tried to do this right up underneath each column, but I got a little crazy with my spacing out here, is equal to 230. All right? And then I'm going to combine like terms. So I'm going to combine everything that does not have a variable. So all this information here. So my next step, the bell's about to ring, so you're hearing the bell. It's going to be 2x plus, let's see, 120 plus 16 plus 40 plus 40 gives me 216. So 2x, 216 is equal to 230. And then I'm going to subtract the 216. So 230 minus 216, that gives me 14. So I'll have 2x is equal to 14. Then I divide by 2. There we go. Now the last thing is, if 3,250 families attended the sporting event, how much money would the team make? This is where a lot of folks mess up, because they want to take the previous answer and multiply it by this. That's incorrect. All right, we're not asking for how many hot dogs or how many beers. The fan cost index, which is 230, this guy right here, you multiply 230 times this, because each family will make $230 for the team. If 3,250 families walk in, you're multiplying 230 times 3,250. All right, well, that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Long video, but thank you for hanging in there. Have a good day, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.